Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey, good morning everyone and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels and I'm glad to be back. I want to thank Randy Burt for filling in for me last week. He did a yeoman's job and I was able to spend the day with my dad over in, where was I? I was in Akron, Ohio. I had to think about that for a minute. We were at the All-American Soapbox Derby, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show because there's a little tie-in here. But Dad's 91 years old. He got in that car again for the second year in a row and flew down the quarter-mile track and beat two guys again. So his record is 2-1 because he has a 1 because back in 1934 he crashed in the first All-American Soapbox Derby. I'll tell you, the folks over there just treated him like royalty. He was a Grand Marshal again, and we just had a great time. But the sad part of it is the guys brought the trophy from 1934, the very first trophy that was ever awarded, and they handed it to my dad and says, "This could have been yours." Anyways, he enjoyed having a reunion with the trophy. And we had a great time. Boy, this weather has been crazy, hasn't it? You wake up in the morning, it's fall. In the afternoon, it's summer. In the evening, it's spring. And who knows what it is the next day. Wow. They said it was the rainiest July on record, I guess. Quite a bit of rain, but the flowers look good anyways. Okay, got a whole bunch of things to talk to you about today. Let's see. Let's start with this one. Okay, August 15th. At 21 Bricks from 7 to 9 o'clock, the Westfield Mayville Rotary Club is having a fun night, a social night. For $20, there's going to be finger foods. I believe there's wine tasting. There's a little bit of that included. Music by myself and Bill. Doc and Bill will be performing for a couple hours there. And it's just a great venue if you haven't been there. Nice night out, a nice evening. It's a beautiful facility. 21 Bricks, August 15th, 7 to 9, the Rotary Club. All right. I've been told that for those of you are part of the survey that was taken here in the last couple of years throughout the United States, somewhere between 42 and 45% of the population believe in ghosts. I looked it up. I mean, it's got to be true, right, if it's on the internet. Anyways, I am told that there's going to be, help me now, Randy, there's going to be a ghost tour of the Dunkirk Lighthouse. How am I doing so far? August 9th. I don't even know what time. It's got to be at night, right? Sometime.
I think it's all.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. If you are so inclined, what do you do at 11 o'clock in the morning? How do you see a ghost at that point? Well, anyways, they're going to have this festival, and there's all kinds of fun things. And why we talk about this stuff is because, number one, it's different, and number two, we want to let you know that there's fun things to do in this county. This is a great place to be year-round, and that's one of our goals. Whatever we're doing is working because people are texting us, they're calling me at home, they are sending in emails to letting us know various events that are going on in the county, and we do this because of you. We want you to know what's going on so they're just not sitting home saying, oh, there's nothing to do in Chautauqua County. There's something to do here all the time. Something else coming up. Today, this is August 2nd, so if you see this during the week, it's too late. But today, August 2nd, this just came in. It says that there's a bake sale, craft, rummage sale with chicken and biscuit lunch from 9 to 3 o'clock today, and lunch is starting to be served at 11 o'clock. Now, this is at the Open Meadows United Methodist Church out on Open Meadows Road in Asheville. And Myra Luca is in charge of that, and if you have any questions, 782-3223. So that's a rummage sale, bake sale, and crafts over at the Open Meadows United Methodist Church. Then I got a phone call and an email on this particular one. Let's see, August 23rd, we're going to be announcing this in the next couple of weeks at the Westfield Fire Hall, Westfield, New York, on Clinton Street from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. There's going to be refreshments and music by DJ Cool Tunes. It's a fundraiser to help the local children. School supplies and backpack donations would be greatly appreciated. That's from Randy Edwards in the fire department over there, and Chief Bubba Bills. If you know Bubba, say hello to him. I know Billy. He looks like a Bubba. He's about 5 foot tall, or 5 foot wide, and about 7 feet tall. He's the chief over there. Great guy and lots of fun. So August 23rd at the Fireman Hall in the evening, support that great event. Also coming up in August, if you remember, we had Kim Greiner on here a while back. She was the diabetes education instructor over at Westfield Memorial Hospital. There's going to be a program that's going to run for a number of weeks, but if you are interested at all in a diabetes workshop for good health and good eating and so forth, call the hospital over there. It's going to begin on August 22nd and run, I believe it's 10 weeks. This is a big issue in our communities these days, diabetes, and if you want more information, give Kim Greiner a call about that workshop. It's free of charge from what I understand. Okay, now, here's my little piece before we get into the rest of the program today. Today's program is called Defenders of Freedom, and I'm not going to introduce these guys yet. Defenders of Freedom. They're out there protecting us. They're protecting us overseas. They're protecting us on our borders and so forth, right? Okay, so they're protecting us from the rest of the world. Meanwhile, I'm in shock because yesterday I opened up the Post-Journal and I'm looking at this diagram. It looked like a fold-out from a magazine or something like this. And I'm sitting there looking at this. I'm going like, how is this possible? 47 people can be creating havoc in our communities while we've got our soldiers in Afghanistan, we've got people trying to protect us in all these other countries in the past, and here we have 47 people that have very little education perhaps, have very few skills. They go by names like Chaco and Bingo and whatever, and they are trafficking heroin into our families and into our communities, and we are rotting from the inside out. So given folks like this, and I'm going to show you this, you didn't see this. This is the diagram. I sat there and I was in shock. How is it possible that all these people that were arrested, so this is public information, I'm not making this stuff up, all right. How is it possible these people that don't even have guided missiles, they don't have bombs, they're wreaking havoc on our country just in our area alone. If this is happening here, it's happening everywhere, all right. We're rotting in from the inside, as I said, and we don't need to have an army to protect us. It's not going to do any good. At the rate we're going, we just have a country come right in and take over because everybody's just going to be high on heroin or not showing up to do their job or whatever. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You know, we fought the battle against drugs and marijuana and LSD for years when I was growing up as a kid. This heroin thing is really taking hold in this area. Here's my take on this. If we stop buying cars, how many car dealerships would there be? 0. If we stop buying tomatoes, the tomato farmers would stop producing. So why in the world are these guys so successful? We need to figure out a way to get our population, our neighbors, our children, our grandchildren, nieces, nephews, it could be you right now that's watching me. What are we doing here? We need to stop the sales of drugs. We need to stop the market. If we have a marketplace for this, this is going to keep on going. It's just like anything else. And people say, well, how is this possible? All these drugs are going on in this country. You're buying them. We're buying them. We're buying them as a nation. All right? So shame on us. I don't want to put you all on my wall of shame because I know it's a very small population that's doing this. But folks, this is spreading, and when you got this many people using technology today that's at our fingertips to stay coordinated, and this is a highly involved ring that they found, we got a problem here, folks. So with that, I'm going to go to a PSA, and then we're going to get right to our guest.
Introducing a new day of the week. Someday. Now, everything you were going to do someday is on the calendar. Want to retire someday? You'll really want this. A My Social Security account at socialsecurity.gov. You can estimate your future benefits and manage current benefits online. Millions of people have a My Social Security account. Get yours today, because someday is here at socialsecurity.gov.
It's your show. Yeah.
Well, welcome back. Hey, if you are visiting the county, welcome to the show. I want to say hello to all the folks at Chautauqua Institution. I know that we're coming into your homes. Grab a cup of coffee, put things to the side, take a little breather from your busy morning or afternoon, depending on when you're seeing this, because we got a very, very interesting set of guests here today. And the topic is going to be Defenders of Freedom. This particular program is near and dear to my heart because not only do I have a son that's in Afghanistan at the moment, but I also have a dad who just did the Soapbox Derby, and he's a veteran. I want to welcome to the show Greg Peterson and Gary Chilcott. And Greg, you're part of this Defenders of Freedom program, and Gary, you're the Director of Veteran Services for Chautauqua County. So far, I got everybody's name right, and I got everybody's title right, right? Okay. So first of all, let's just find out a little bit about yourselves, because this is the first time you've been on Chautauqua Sunrise. So let's start with Greg. Greg, I know you're a lawyer, I believe, or attorney. What do we call people these days?
Well, you call whatever you would like, and often we don't get either of those titles. You know. So I'm delighted you picked one of those too.
Okay.
I know I'm an attorney in Jamestown, law firm of Phillips Lytle, which is a statewide law firm, and I'm a native. So this is my hometown,
Okay.
and been involved in a variety of projects, and this is one of them.
Oh, great. And Gary, how about yourself? What brings you to the program today, and your background a little bit?
Well, I'm not a native. My wife is a native. We grew up here, married here some years ago. Then pursued an Air Force career.
That was a wise statement to put that, because your wife probably is watching, and she'll say, "Don't you dare." So I'm sorry. You were married for a number of years.
And then I swept her off to the Air Force for 28 years. Kind of toured the world, if you will. Lived in several different places. Then spent 15 years in education after that, public education.
Where?
In Ohio, primarily, and then we moved back here, and I traveled evaluating junior ROTC programs.
Oh, wow.
With across 11 states, and then this opportunity came up to serve as the Director of Veteran Services.
Oh, wonderful.
So kind of moving from education, now supporting the veterans.
Okay, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards, because I know we sure want to hear about that. And we've had the Director of Veteran Services before on the Senior Report. That was our original program here. This Chautauqua Sunrise is sort of like the brother program to that. So anyways, okay, Defenders of Freedom, what a great title. Who came up with that?
You know, we had a lunch where we were talking about the concept of grabbing the oral histories of World War II veterans. There's been a lot of publicity over the fact there's less than 1 million World War II vets alive in the United States today, and it seemed to us that it would be an opportunity to capture their stories before it's not captured. In many senses, having them tell it for the very first time. So we had a lunch and gathered around. We threw a lot of ideas, and I don't know actually who came up with it, but ultimately Defenders of Freedom was a tag that was thrown out there. It stuck, and for that we've been using it. It's a project which we interview, like I say, World War II veterans. We do a lot of that at the Robert Jackson Center. But when the vet is incapable of coming in, we've done road shows, Fredonia, Bust Eye, a variety of other locations as well, just with a goal towards capturing the story. So we've, since December 7th, 2013, when we actually launched this, and that was, as it turned out, pretty serendipitous. It was the first Saturday in December, and then it dawned on us, it was December 7th, and our first guest was a guy named Danny O'Brien from Asheville, New York, who was at Pearl Harbor.
A very fine lad, I would add. Yes. A good Irishman. I'm part Irish.
And since then, we've done over 80 interviews.
80? Wow. Okay. So you interview these fellas, and then can you walk through the process? Because, well, first of all, before you do that, there's probably folks listening going like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go in front of the camera. How do you get these folks in front of the camera? And what's their average age? Because I'm sitting here and I know how old my dad is, and he was one of the younger ones that went into World War II. And I know my father-in-law over in Ripley, Bill Molson, I know his age, and I'm not supposed to say these things on TV, but they're over 60. So what's the average age that you're dealing with?
I think the youngest was 88 and the oldest 97.
Yeah, that's about right.
And so we reach out to them, several of us. Gary is a wonderful resource for reaching out and identifying who the World War II vets, Raleigh Kidder, Phil Zimmer, among others. And so we've had folks who've been touching them, and it sometimes is difficult. Sometimes this is the very first time they've talked about it. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. But I think it's very important for their families that they have an outlet. Sometimes it comes in the form of a non-family member, that's usually me as the interviewer, to present a story which heretofore has not been presented. And that becomes something for their archives, something for their legacy, not only to the community but to the family especially. So once we get going, they soon forget there's a camera, and it becomes just a very friendly conversation. And often the family member who would have brought them in sits there and say, I've never heard this before. And that's rewarding.
Let me jump to Gary. You said you were in the Air Force and that, and so that you're a veteran and so forth. Why is it that you have these 88 to 97-year-olds that for the very first time are telling their story, and it's never been heard before? Why is that?
Well, I think they've told their story maybe within their family, but we haven't been able to capture it in terms of either, a videotape or something that we can then pass on to future generations or use in the educational process. That's one of the things. Having spent time in education after my military service, I thought this would be a great opportunity to hear firsthand exactly what happened. I mean, our children see things in movies and they think that's real.
It's Hollywood.
But to hear firsthand from an individual that was there, I think that's really powerful. Yesterday I was taken by one of the interviewers, and just kind of a sidebar here, but there's a lot of emotion that comes out in the way Greg interviews with the individual. One of the things, but he does an excellent job in terms of getting him to the point in which the conflict occurred, or where there's a lot of emotion involved. And what I mean by that is he starts out, tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up? What did your mom and dad do? Where did you graduate from high school? And just basic questions to kind of warm them up to get to the point of where he is. And that's a real skill, to be able to put them at ease.
Are you at ease right now?
No.
Yes. I'm trying my best here. You're doing a great job, by the way. You're at ease. I've done my job. So it's much like what we're doing right now.
It is.
It's a conversation.
It is. It is. Very important.
And so they're telling their story.
Right.
And so what happens when you get to some of those more emotional things?
Well, like yesterday, there were tears.
Yeah, get the old Kleenex box out, right?
Absolutely. And then it's important to, again, either you step back for a minute, in the conversation and say, well, we so appreciate what you did, and it's what you gave is important for us. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for what you did. Those kinds of things. I think that's real important to them to hear that right now.
Okay, let me pull back a little bit, because I've got relatives. I got my father, I got my brother-in-law, and I have my son. 3 different campaigns altogether: World War II, Vietnam, and Afghanistan, Iraq. Okay. Nobody talked about, and I never get this right, but I want to call it post-traumatic syndrome after the war.
PTSD.
Right? PTSD. I never get the D on there. All right. I don't ever remember hearing my dad and all his buddies say, "Oh, I'm suffering from PTSD." I never remember any of the guys that went to war my age say, "I'm suffering from this." But now this is a big issue. Okay. And the funniest thing is all of a sudden, I'm hearing World War II veterans talking about their experiences that I've never heard before within my own family. I hear my brother-in-law from Vietnam talking about his experiences. Is there a movement afoot or something out there that's now saying it's time to talk? It's time for you guys to share this, because you have this all bottled up in you. Is there anything going on, or is it just my imagination?
No, I think there is. I think when you go back to post-World War II, we treated the physical and not the mental.
Right.
An individual came home, shrapnel wounds or a leg or their body in some way physically was damaged. We treated that, but they didn't talk about it. Our world was obviously different then, post-World War II. I believe, my father, a Navy veteran from World War II, that our community surrounded them. My father often tells me of, that he had to hurry up and come home after he was discharged because there was a job waiting for him. Somebody was there to take care of him. The family unit was intact, and it embraced him. And obviously we had the GI Bill. We had the services from the government to build a home, to get an education, and so our World War II veterans were assimilated back into our communities very well. Korea, then I think probably similarly. Not much had changed. That war came shortly thereafter, World War II. Vietnam was very different.
Yeah.
One, it was a longer war, protracted war. It wasn't decided clearly at the end of the war. We always
left hanging.
There wasn't a clear victor. And then there was a lot of obviously discontent in the country. So, and then we move on to our current war. So where does all that lead us? I think things happened in all those wars, but they really weren't brought to the front until where we are now in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think those things existed. There was shell shock. We talk about shell shock is what they call it in World War II and even World War I. But shell shock is PTSD. It is.
I don't want to go back there. I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I have nightmares.
There's one other element too, and I hear this particularly with our World War II veterans, and that is, those things happen, but I don't deserve anything from it. I came back. I assimilated back into the environment, and my family took care of me, and I don't deserve anything. I think that's what Tom Brokaw calls the greatest generation, you know, that they stepped beyond that they don't need any disability. I was taken by a veteran the other day that, you know, he's still got shrapnel in his leg, and he gets no disability, never has since the 1940s. And,
Wow.
and I'm saying, why didn't you come forward? You earned it, you deserve it, you should have gotten it. And he said, no, it's for the other guys, you know.
Right.
And it's that attitude, that
Circle of brothers kind of a thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Take a breath, relax.
Okay.
You are watching Chautauqua Sunrise with Doc Hamels, and I have some very fine guests here today, Greg Peterson and Gary Chilcott, and we are talking about the Defenders of Freedom program that's for, at this point in time, I'm saying at this point in time because I have a feeling you're going to expand it eventually, World War II veterans and their story. So this is August 2nd. If you want to call in, give us a call if you have a question, if you want to have a comment, if you want to share a story about your war experiences, if you have an announcement that has nothing to do with this, that's okay. A birthday, an anniversary, you want to share some information, an event, we're here for you. So just call us. They've been flashing the information because I got to look at the camera. I can't look down because it's like the telethon. They have these banners go across here. But anyways, call us or you can text us, Twitter us, whatever, and I have all this information at my fingertips. So please do feel free to call in. Okay, I have a little comment, and maybe Greg, you can jump in on this too. This is not a plus or a minus, but growing up with a World War II veteran of my dad, I always felt my dad was like tough guy, macho. We didn't talk about pain. We couldn't be sissies. You know, I mean, he was a great guy. You're a great guy. He watches the show, so I got it. I said it to him up in Buffalo. But he was very, very strong and strict with us in many ways, and it was that military thing. And I'm not saying that's not true today, but the culture of the World War II veterans, I think you hinted at, is very different. I don't need that and that sort of thing. Greg, are you finding that as well, that they're kind of like that Clint Eastwood type, you know, tough guy?
To some extent, but you got to keep in mind all of these World War II vets, certainly we've been interviewing, were 17, 18, 19 years old when they were exposed to some real difficult times, atrocities.
Yeah.
And part of the boot camp experience is, in fact, it takes pain to gain.
Right.
And it's also a certain individualism. And anybody who was not part of that individualism, which then led to teamwork, it's all part of that culture, which I'm sure is inculcated in them, and that became something they wanted to participate and transmit to us at our ages. And we'd like to hopefully think some of that passes through. We filter it a little bit more now. But I think that's very real, and they are proud of what they accomplished. They are proud that they did not have to seek assistance. They came back.
Very independent.
There was there was parades, but ultimately they had to get a job.
Right.
And they got a job, they had to provide for the families, and that's what really drove them. And I'm taken by that over and over again. And frankly, in today's society, some of the things you just mentioned early on, these are role models that part of this program, the Defenders of Freedom, is to capture, edit, because the attention span of most is not as long as it used to be, and to show that your next door neighbor who you took for granted, who was out there in the garden and looked at 90 years old with a cane, was an amazing human being who had
he really did that,
and we can sort of do that.
Okay, we've got a call. You want to take a call?
Sure.
All right, good morning, caller.
Good morning. I guess I have a couple things and then a question.
Okay, shoot.
As of yesterday, August 1st, I know the Prendergast Library has a new thing where you can go on and get e-editions of magazines like Newsweek and Popular Science and stuff. And I just wanted to let people know that you can go online and do that. So if you're ordering Newsweek every week, maybe you can save some money and just go and check it out at the library online and read that.
That's a good resource. Okay.
And also, I think you should go over and join the Sherman mayor to get your hair cut with him.
What? Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. I got to get back to that one.
I think they're having that today at 2:30.
I forgot about that. Okay, very good. John Patterson is going to get his hair chopped. But I'll let you finish. I'll get back to that.
And then my one question, I guess, is where I think you're producing videos of veterans and stuff. I was just wondering where you can find that. I mean, my grandfather died in 2000, and he was a World War II veteran, but he had Alzheimer's, and I was just wondering, where you can find other people's, experiences and stuff. If there's a place online or
so where are these videos?
Get a DVD or... All right, I'll let you talk about that.
That's a good question. Thank you. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, we've, like I say, done about 80 interviews, and of those, what the process is, we then pause, edit them, and we also do it with a green screen behind us. So when they talk about a specific event of which there is footage which might be associated with that event, we try to put that. So there's an editing process, unlike this particular program, which can be presented right here, right now. That is something which is going on. And we have 4 or 5 of them up at the Robert H. Jackson Center YouTube site.
Oh, okay.
They're up, and certainly offline, or I can give you that later. Our goal is to get them all up after they're edited, and to provide them.
So if they go to YouTube, would they put in Defenders of Freedom?
I'd probably type in Robert H. Jackson Center.
Okay.
And then the particular
work
names
your way
will pop
through
up,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Our goal is, and it's a very good point, is to take then, once we have a critical mass, we'll put them on a separate web page.
Okay. I got to go back to John Patterson over in Sherman. Okay. He was on last week, right? And he had put together a challenge, and this is for the Sherman Day, so that's going on right on this weekend, that he was going to grow his hair, and then they were going to sell chances to see who was going to cut his hair. So that's going on, which made me remember a little challenge I did a few years ago. After I retired as school superintendent, I did an interim. I was helping him out over in Westfield as the elementary principal. And so if folks are watching, or the students are watching, they'll remember this story because it was crazy. I said to them, if they read so many books, like it was thousands of pages of books and stuff like this, during a certain period of time, I'd shave my beard off in front of the student body on stage. Little did I know that was quite a carrot for everybody. So lo and behold, not only did they top the goal, but they surpassed it by quite a little bit. So on this one particular day, my daughter showed up. She's a cosmetologist, and we were outside of the auditorium, and all you could hear was this chanting, "Shave that beard." I mean, it was like, I don't know, 400 kids cheering, and we went down the aisle, and it was like going to a WWF wrestling tournament or something. The kids were going crazy. They were having a great time. And so they shaved my beard off, and that was all for a great cause. So, John, I'm looking forward to seeing your picture in the paper, looking very sleek, aerodynamic. In fact, he can come here and work, right? I'm one of the few guys that has a whole head of hair here. Okay, enough on that. Let's get back to Defenders of Freedom. You're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. You can call this number. You can Twitter us. You can do whatever you want. Call in and find out more information. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the process, but you talked about this green screen. So if I'm the veteran, behind me I got this green screen that we sometimes see on TV when they're producing things. So what's the magic of putting the video of Iwo Jima or Nagasaki or Hitler marching or whatever? I mean, you have the technology for all that over there, or is this sent to a company? Or
No. We have the technology there. It's kind of a neat, it's a download for iMovie. And there's enough stock footage out there,
right,
to particular battles.
History Channel and stuff.
And I'll give you just a brief example of what recently happened. We did an interview with a guy named Conrad King. Conrad King from Asheville, New York.
I know who he is. Okay.
And he was one of the founders of King's Heating, which is very much into play. And he's 90 years old. During the course of the interview, an hour plus interview, we talked about the fact that he was on the USS Essex, that he was a group of 8 of them were on a gun turret, And that particular day when they were fighting the Japanese, Japanese plane got through and to them, and so shoot, 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 and a 250-pound bomb landed directly on his turret. And then he's telling this story, and of course our jaws are on the ground, and hits the turret, and he goes flying. Lands on his back, wakes up, obviously stunned, looks around, and of the 8 people on the turret, he's the only one that survived.
Oh my gosh.
And you're right.
And how many times have you heard this story over and over again in other situations?
Yeah, so that we were absolutely, and then you asked him, what was how did you feel?
Yeah.
Because you saw the death and destruction, and he goes, well, he prayed to his God about deliverance, and he felt that there was a protective, that one particular time in life he was protected. So, back to the green screen, while he's telling this story, there is footage of actual kamikaze or Japanese planes coming in, dropping bombs, and as he's talking about we were hit, you could literally see in his back the flames of the ship, and
that's powerful.
It's very powerful and gives a 3-dimensional effect, and it really was terrific. And to go one step further, the USS Essex obtained the surrender of a ship called the Nagato, Japanese ship. You can't make this stuff up. We went online and found a home movie of a sailor who had taken film from that, and there was the Nagato, and there was a small ship of which Conrad was a part, boarding. And then he went on to say that, and then when I got on there, I got on the masthead and I took the Japanese flag down, put the U.S. flag up, got the surrender of the boat, and oh, by the way, and he reaches in his bag, this is the flag.
The Japanese.
All this time he's had that flag. Oh my gosh.
So from a video perspective, you'd say, so he got the movie of the Nagato, and then boom, he shows that.
Oh my gosh.
And to go one step further, I hate to take up all this time, but
this is your show. I don't have that much to say.
Well, to go one step further, this same Conrad King, USS Essex, was going to be the ship assigned to be where the Japanese would sign the surrender.
Okay.
At the last minute, General Eisenhower decided it would be the USS Missouri. So the Essex was tied up next to the Missouri, and he was on the second deck looking down. He's describing this. Looking down, and there is the ceremony.
Happening.
And son of a gun, you tool around, and there is a video on YouTube which has, from the second deck of a ship, which I assume is the Essex, showing what he would be seeing. And that's incredibly visual, and we've done that. That's now on YouTube, the Conrad King story. Wow. About an 8-minute piece, and if you don't, after watching that, walk away and say, this is magic. Yeah. And here's a guy that lives in Asheville. He's a guy who's a neighbor.
Everyday guy.
And putting that extraordinary piece. And we want to take the time to do that for the family, for him, and certainly for part of the education of which Gary was so much a part of understanding war. And war is hell. I mean, there's nothing glorified about it, and so that's one of the other messages to come across. But that just gives you an idea how we use the actual production.
Excellent. Gary, now, I'm sitting here listening to the story of Connie King, because that's how he goes, I'm pretty sure. And people are watching this and say, well, I was in World War II, and, I saw action, but it was nothing like that, and who would want to hear my story? I say wrong.
Exactly right.
So who are we looking for?
You mean as far as Connie King's story?
No, as far as Defenders of Freedom, who is this for anybody from World War II? Men, women, behind the scenes?
We're concentrating on obviously the veterans, the ones that had the experience.
Right, but I mean, some people are sitting back and saying, I wasn't a Connie King. I didn't have a big deal. I didn't get blown up by it.
But see, in war or the military service, everybody plays a part.
Everybody has
we're
a part.
We're all there, and some people flew the airplanes, they dropped the bombs. Some people, but But as you always know, that there's 100 people on the ground to support that one person.
Exactly.
So what about all of those?
Yeah,
what about all of the people that provided either the fuel or the armament?
Let's hear that
or
story too.
Yes,
The rest,
exactly right.
fill in
Yeah.
the whole mosaic of the thing.
Exactly right. And we hear all kinds of contributions to the war and to all conflict, and it's remarkable how they all. I mean, and I don't really think anybody feels like, okay, that they were either more or less important, that they all contributed. And I think that's important because they all did, and they all need to be recognized.
Have you interviewed any women yet?
We did.
They're out there.
They're out there, yeah.
We have interviewed a few one from England who was a young child who was there during the Battle of Britain. And that was incredible. There was also another lady who was involved as they were caught up in a prisoner of war camp in the Ukraine. And so we have, it's a great question you have, Doc, is we've had folks that are on the ground, we've had folks that are in the administration who were procurement. We've had the folks who flew the planes, we had the folks who were the front line, and all of it, which was a team.
Okay, let's see if I have a question here just popped in. Okay, the question here is, go ahead, Gary, I can hold this, go ahead.
Okay, well, there was just one thing Greg said I wanted to add to, and that was, and I'm not, the stories begin to blend together after a lot of time, but one of the things that has recurred in this, and it might have been with Connie King, but I know it was, if it wasn't with him, it was certainly with others. Remember, he was the only one that survived of the 7. One of the things he did after the war was to come back to the families of his friends, of his, to talk about that.
What happened that day and bring closure to them.
Exactly, and that's very that was a very important thing that we've heard many times over, that connection in the military when you're in life and death struggles is so it's a dynamic you can't really describe. That it's that their family, their family, and so when they come back, even it might be a short time they're together, but they're in this stressful environment. Then they want to make sure they have closure with the families.
Okay,
and that's happened in all our wars, by the way. Vietnam too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've heard that time and time again. I have a question, and this is kind of a difficult question, but it says, this was just through Twitter here, is how do you deal with people that have either mild Alzheimer's? Do you record them even though maybe they have somewhat of a memory loss, or do you bring family members in that can help them along and tell the story, or what do you do in those situations? Have you crossed that problem yet?
We have.
We have.
We are very understanding, patient, and often, and I'm not a diagnostician, I'm not a doctor, I don't fully understand Alzheimer's, but if we get them back to a time and place, which is in the 40s, then we hit a couple of notes which resonate,
familiar ground for them,
and then they'll come, and then you have an opportunity to extract that from it, and then it sort of opens up, and sometimes they repeat themselves, but whatever they're repeating is important.
Right.
And we have had that opportunity, and yes, having family members there who can sometimes prod, saying, why don't you ask about this, or ask about Mom, and that will then trigger that conversation how we got into war. And so you get those cues. And yes, yes, the answer is we do want their stories, and they do have a story. And we do, when the day is done, get something special for the family.
I would say, in all due respect to the veterans, hurry. Get this done soon, because they're aging out, and whether their mental faculties are going or their physical ability to get around is maybe being impaired quickly.
Right.
This is a story that's disappearing very quickly. It's no different than our own family genealogy, is where the story is disappearing unless you grab it now and you can record it. You know, what do you hope to do with these vignettes? I mean, I know they're on YouTube, and I know that you've captured them, but do you see further purpose for these stories?
I guess I'll take a shot at it. Our goal is, yes, preservation first.
Tell the story.
Tell the story, get it in the can. Secondly is to be able to do what we do, is to edit them so they're put into some sort of context. Then, once we do that, we hope to then, we have 80 of these now, be able to categorize them, put them in certain theaters of war, and tell a story. Tell a story. Riley Kidder did such a phenomenal job when he did the Hometown Heroes Go to War, and continues to do that even with his most recent Vietnam book. But to capture that and to do that in a visual format. The books are terrific, but there's always something more when you can see the vets talk about their process, sometimes emote. To me, that's real, and have that as an educational tool. Have that for documentarians.
Could teachers use these?
Teachers use them, absolutely.
Sure. Pull right off YouTube. There it is.
And it's the neighbor. I mean, when they talk about World War II and they get to the point where, all right, here's somebody who was at the Battle of the Bulge or whatever happened, or at the signing at the end of the war. Boom, boom, and there's a 5-minute clip, and that guy lived in Asheville, New York. How cool. I witnessed the history.
Okay, question for you. I'll throw this to Gary. I'm a veteran. I'm making this up. I'm a veteran. I lived in Ohio, and now I moved to Chautauqua County. Can I tell my story?
Absolutely.
So I don't have to necessarily be from Chautauqua.
Yesterday was all Pennsylvania. It was Youngville, it was Kane, and it was Warren County. So no, there's no, we don't have a border.
Okay. I got another Twitter question here. Where does your funding come from for all this?
The funding from this has come through individuals. Has come through the Elks, the Robert Jackson Center, various veterans organizations, the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation have supported us. We are all volunteers, like you, like this program. And we do that for the love, but there's certainly a cost for the material, there's the cost for the tapes, and that process. So the fact that it's underwritten, and we're certainly welcome donations. It's done through the auspices of the Robert H. Jackson Center. And people ask why. That there's a linkage. One, it's me, I guess, and the other is the fact that Robert H. Jackson was the chief American prosecutor at the Nuremberg trial, which really was the bookend of World War II. And so it's Nuremberg trial was the preservation of the documentation of the perpetrators of World War II. And perhaps this is a preservation of those who participated in World War II, and we're not limited to, frankly, just folks that were involved in the United States. We've interviewed Italian soldiers. We've interviewed people, I guess I mentioned, in Britain and Ukraine. If they happen to be within shouting distance of us, we're delighted to gather their story, because everybody has a story, including you, Doc.
I do.
And someday we'll turn the tables.
The other part of the question was, and this is whoever sent the question, it's a great question. Let's say someone like Conrad King had a little home video, or they have pictures. Are any of those things being preserved by this program? I mean, are you taking pictures of the picture, copying of the films and things?
Everyone that comes in after the interview or before, many of them bring pictures with them. They'll bring a book. In fact, and Conrad King, he actually had a binded book of his whole experiences. But Greg will take pictures of the pictures, or we'll get their name and phone number. We take pictures of them, and then and that becomes part of the total package, and we can add that to the video.
And as far as the movies, if anybody's got movies, what we always will do, they're usually 8mm movies, Kodak, little yellow box. We all had them.
We had them when we were all growing up.
That's
Christmas morning.
That's right. And so what we do and gladly do this for free, is if somebody drops that off, we'll transfer that onto a DVD and give them back the film and a DVD. But of course, we keep a copy for our use, and we're glad to do it anytime.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about the binders. When I visit with my dad, sometimes we'll go down in the basement, and down there has all the history of World War II from his perspective, and he's got the binders, pictures, and where I'm leading with this is, do you ever hear funny stories? I mean, you said war is hell, okay? My dad said, I'm not going to tell, Dad, don't worry, I'm not going to tell all the stories you told me. Okay, but there was some levity behind the scenes during the off time and things. Do you ever hear those stories?
It's one of Greg's questions, and it's a great one. Sometimes, you know, I think the veteran many times might be, we're so involved with the experiences and sometimes the bad things of war. Weren't there humorous times? Weren't there what did you do for fun? How did you relax?
How bad was the food, really?
Right, yeah. And sometimes the food, we were taken by, yesterday one of the stories was, and it was in England, he lived in I think the enlisted people that supported the airplane, he was an airplane hydraulic person, and so but he lived in a tent, but the officers lived in a building. And so they went in and he took the floorboards off the officers' building and put it in his tent. He was the only tent with the floorboards in it. So, but it's those kinds of things that I think we hear them almost every veteran, without exception. We hear a humorous story.
Are there other programs like this across the United States that's doing this type of thing?
Oh, I think so. I mean, we're not unique. The oral history now has become a very important part of capturing it. Frankly, I think it goes back to Steven Spielberg, the Holocaust survivors. He made it a cause célèbre to get the story of everybody who was part of the Holocaust. So similarly, as we read about the World War II veterans and their demise, capture the story while you can. Everybody's got a story.
Absolutely. And with that, this is your last chance and last reminder. You're watching Chautauqua Sunrise with Doc Hamels and Greg Peterson and Gary Chilcott, and we're talking about the Defenders of Freedom program over at the Robert Jackson Center. You can call in if you have a question. You can Twitter us, but we're only going to be on the show for a little while. But because of that, and you may be seeing this later on, how are they going to get a hold of you if they watch this later?
Well, the point person with the...
Look right down there.
There we go. There it is. Defender of Freedom, Phil Zimmer. I'll just read it.
Yeah.
665-4034. Phil is one World War II historian.
Okay.
And he's part of this project. There are several people who are part of the Defenders of Freedom project, and Gary, myself, Ron Cotton, Linda Harvey, Steve Massa, the folks at the Jackson Center. But Phil is the point person, and if you know of somebody who might be willing or want to, and by the way, if you can't physically get here, or if the person has a hard time traveling, the Elks trip provides transportation to the Jackson Center.
Awesome.
And the reason that's preferable is because, again, the green screen. We'd like to be able to take advantage of that for future editing. But if the person is disabled and can't, and it's not practical, we'll actually travel.
Very, very good. So, nobody should feel an exception. If you could be in independent living, you could be in a nursing home, you could be anywhere. You will travel and get that story. You're like the roving reporter. I just got another question on Twitter here. Let's say the veteran is deceased, but the family has archival material, stories, or some letters or whatever. Are you accepting any of those kinds of things, photos, on behalf of that veteran or anything like that? Or not yet?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. We're really trying to get the oral history of the individual involved. That doesn't mean that isn't part of the story.
Right.
It should be gathered. We're not really quite prepared for that.
But don't throw it away.
Please,
okay, so not yet, but keep it in there. Okay. You know, before we started the show this morning, I promised Gary that he could have a little bit of time, if it's all right, Greg, to talk a little bit about Veterans Services here in Chautauqua County. So, Gary, go for it.
Well, I'm really pleased to be in the job. We have over 10,000 veterans in the county.
10,000?
10,000.
Out of 135,000 people, we have
yes, sir.
10,000
That's
veterans.
correct, right. And we have a lot of needs out there, and we continue our outreach. We have the VA clinic. We have two, what they call small VA clinics, one in Jamestown and one in Dunkirk. We are right next to the VA clinic in Jamestown, 610 West 3rd Street. We do pension claims, disability claims, also education, all of the benefits that a veteran should and has earned, we are able to provide. They only need to come see us. Call us, our number is 661-8255. That's really important. We provide those same services in Dunkirk. We have Lori Dispenza is our Veteran Service Officer up there. She is currently at the Dunkirk Senior Center, and that's been the location of the office for the past, a long time anyway. But we're in the process of moving her to the VA clinic, which is very close to that. So that's that's the outreach that we have. We will come to you, though, when you talk about disability or if there's a serious situation or whatever, like we do home visits, okay, when the need arises. So family members, they can call us, and scheduling permitting, we'll come to them. But
my Twitter's lighting up here. Another
yes,
question was, do you help them get connected with any schooling for veterans?
yes, we talked about the old GI Bill. There's a lot of modifications to it since World War II, obviously, but it is very lucrative. Returning, someone getting out of the service right now from Iraq or Afghanistan, the tremendous benefits for them. And JCC, our local school here in Jamestown, Jamestown Business College, SUNY Fredonia, are all very, very receptive to veterans. So they actually have veterans assistance offices within the campuses to help. So that's really an important part.
I know this seems hard to believe, but I'm the bearer of bad tidings. We've only got 1 minute and 49 seconds left. So Greg, how about half a minute, whatever you want to say about the Defenders of Freedom program and any more contact information. This is all yours.
Oh, great. Well, I'm thrilled that you invited us. I'm thrilled we're able to have an opportunity to talk about this program, which has, I think, a terrific impact on Gary and I and those involved on the other side of the camera, to be able to have the vets tell the story, which in many instances is the first time. And certainly it's the first time where it's been done in sort of a organized way, and to be able to ultimately use them for academic reasons, for documentary reasons, and for family reasons. It's a very, very exciting thing. And for those who are interested in contacting us, again, to contact Phil Zimmer at 716-665-4034. Interestingly enough, I'm going to be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Henry Mayer at Chautauqua this Tuesday at 3:30, who is from the Holocaust Museum, who has in fact been an archivist and has been tracking down a variety of folks along those same lines. So it's all wonderful, and I'm thrilled that you're giving us an outlet here.
Awesome. And Gary, I assume that people can call you at your office if they have any questions about veteran services from here on out.
Absolutely.
All right, and maybe we'll have you come back and talk more on that.
Okay.
Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. This is very heartwarming, and it's also kind of sad in many ways too. But it's a great program, and for those of you who are out there watching, give them a contact. I'm Doc Hamels. You've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I want to thank all the veterans out there. Get your story, come over and tell it so that we can have it for many, many years to come. Be well, have a great weekend. There you go.
Thanks.